effective feedback is about the process and not the person. So this was one thing that I talked about quite a lot, and it's quite challenging to do actually. When you're feeding back to somebody, it's quite difficult to take person out of the equation. Especially if you're feeding back on something qualitative rather than quantitative. Okay, but actual effective feedback is about what's happened and not the person that's done it or the behaviour that's done it. It's more about the actual fact, the impact on the back of it. And that's, I think, if there's any key learning point to take away from feedback before we even get to feed forward, is if you're going to give feedback, try and take the person out of the equation and feedback on the act, the action, the process that was taken. That you might need to be giving some feedback feedback on at that point. Okay. Never criticise the person, always criticise the action. The word criticise isn't great, to be honest, but you know where I'm coming from. Being critical is okay if you can help with the solution afterwards. That comes back, and you've heard me say this 100 times, guys, that comes back to the difference between being problem focused and solution focused. On the back of it, anybody can be critical and be problem focused. Can you be critical and solution focused on the back of it, which is picking something up, being critical of it, and then helping to find that solution with them going forward. And when I say helping, I don't mean finding the solution. It might be facilitating their thinking so they come up with the solution, but it's just being that little bit more useful. We've all, no doubt, everybody on this call has had bad feedback. Everybody on the call has had bad feedback. One of the worst things you can do when providing effective feedback is let your emotions come into play. Effective feedback shouldn't be about the person, it should be about the action. So, as you guys know, which I've done a number of times on these sessions, we are emotional beings, thinking, emotions, actions, results. So for me to say, take the emotion out of it, it's actually quite difficult. It's actually quite difficult. Just had a couple more people join, there you go, a few minutes in. It's actually quite difficult to do that. And the reason for that is we are emotional beings. So it's about, maybe if we're not able to completely take the emotion out, it's about trying to just curb it. Because sometimes we want to give feedback, not necessarily for the right reason, and we're going to come on to that in a moment. And then, how do we feed forward? Because if we can feed forward properly, there's a less of a need for feedback afterwards. There's always going to be a bit, there's always going to be some feedback, but if we get the feed forward bit right, we're going to be okay. Okay, so there, you'll remember, for the guys, I've used this slide before. If anybody likes my Hulk slide there, why does feedback go wrong? Feedback goes wrong because our emotions get in the way. In fact, just guys in the chat box, or come off mute, whatever you want to do, thinking about what are the reasons that cause us to give feedback, or what should I say, what wrong reasons, why do we sometimes give feedback to people? What makes us give that feedback? The question's not great here coming from me, to be honest, but what is it what can make us like this sometimes? Like the Hulk. What might happen that you give somebody snap feedback? Yeah, clash of personalities. Yeah, absolutely, Charlotte, you're absolutely right. So if you remember all the work that we've done on profiling, if you've got two opposite profiles and somebody does something, it kind of might clash and you don't understand why they've done it. Yeah, a lot of feedback sometimes is given also because we get annoyed, hence the Hulk. Okay, we get don't accept feedback. Yeah, that's another good one. Tim, what did you mean there? We don't accept feedback, or the other person doesn't accept feedback. What did you mean there, Tim? Just give me a bit more on that, will you? The other person, yeah. yeah, you could give feedback, and the other person kind of nods at you going, oh great, yeah, brilliant, and then works off and doesn't take it. That can start turning us into this as well, doesn't it? So again, the point I'm making here is emotion, okay? Sometimes emotion gets in the way. It can either make us feel angry, annoyed, fed up, you know. I spoke to somebody this morning and I said, you're right. She was like, no, this person's doing me head in. Yeah, God, they're doing me head in, you know what I mean? You know, they said this, you know, they said I've got too much to do. So I stood there and I explained everything that I had to do. And that's kind of probably not helpful. But because they felt annoyed, because they were busy, and that person's then, another person's trying to point out they're busier, all of a sudden, the feedback they're giving them, it's coming across as, well, I'm busier than you, you're busier than me, oh, and you start getting into a bit of a feedback war at that point, don't you? And I'm sure you've come across that, guys, before, you know, well, you need to do this better, well, you need to do that better, well, you need to do this better, well, you need to... And it's emotion that drives a lot of it, okay? So we can't all become Vulcan and become emotionless. Yeah, some people are better at it than others, but it's something that we've really got to watch in feedback. You almost you want to strip your emotion, and this is why sometimes the time that you give the feedback is important, when you give feedback, which we'll come on to in a moment as well, okay? Good stuff. Sometimes we give feedback and we've got lack of clarity, so it's not accurate. That causes an adverse reaction to feedback as well. If you're giving feedback based on hearsay, for argument's sake, or you haven't got all the details and you didn't know stuff, you could give feedback and then, wow, they kind of blast you back. Lack of communication, again, so that is making sure that when you give the feedback, that you give it in a clear, concise manner to people and they don't go and make up what they think you mean on the feedback. And, of course, our fight response. Charlotte's put setting standards and the standards pyramid. Did you mean, Charlotte, if you set standards, people are clear and then you're able to feed back? Is that what you meant? Because you're absolutely right if that's what you meant. Yeah, great, fantastic, Charlotte. And great that you remembered the standards pyramid as well. Love it, Wheels, nice. Yeah. If you've got clarity, if people have clarity, have standards, and they slip below the standard, then it's easier to give feedback. If there's no standards, or standards are different for different people, then you're going to get an adverse reaction to feedback. That's a great point, Charlotte. That is well done. Our fight response, I thought that said fight, I was hoping it didn't say flight then. Our fight response. So if you remember, when we feel under pressure, we go into fight, flight or freeze. Okay, if you go into flight, you wouldn't normally give feedback because you'd exit from the situation. If you freeze, you procrastinate at that point, and we covered that when we did decision making a couple of weeks ago. We covered that. Oh yeah, numbers have got a bit better. So we go into fight. When we know we've got to give feedback, we get a shot of adrenaline into the system and we go into fight mode, which, as I've told you this before, guys, fight mode is great if there's a car coming at you on the street, or if there's you're walking through the jungle and see a tiger coming at you or a bear, then do you know what, you need the fight response. But actually, just before you're about to give feedback, not that useful. You don't need loads of adrenaline shooting into your system because you're almost ready. You're almost in defensive mode. So there's just a few reasons why it can go pear-shaped, and why either we can turn into the Hulk when we're giving feedback, or the people that you're giving feedback to can turn into the Hulk on the back of it. Okay? So the fight response is built in, remember? It's natural. Okay? The brain can't differentiate between fear and danger. So you won't be in any danger normally with feedback. It'll be fear, but it'll still reduce the chemical release. It will still produce the adrenaline into your system at that point. And if we think, and this is the key one here, if our self-esteem is threatened in some way, that also puts you into fight response. So I would probably go farther than self-esteem as well. I'd probably say life status. So if somebody's giving you some feedback, or you've heard that somebody's trying to give you feedback and you think it threatens your esteem, your job role, your life status. If you, and what I mean by life status is how other people see you, how you see yourself and how other people see you. If you perceived that, it puts you into fight a lot of the time at that point. So again, we've just got to be very, very careful of this, because it's a cheesy phrase, this, I've used it a couple of times. It's not the fact, it's how we react to it. So if we feel that self-esteem or life status, status within the business, status within your family, status within your friends, status within society, if we feel that is under threat, we go into fight mode. Now, you will probably, even if you can't think of a time when it happened to you, I'll guarantee you there will be a time when you've given feedback to somebody. And all of a sudden, you've been thinking, well, I'll just give them this feedback, I'm sure they'll find it useful. And then they've had an adverse reaction and they've come at you. And what you've probably done is touched a nerve. And what I mean by touching a nerve is you've questioned their life status or their self-esteem level, or their job status, the way that they see the world. I remember having some feedback. I was in a meeting with 2 other people. I was a junior consultant. My boss was in the meeting with this other senior consultant, and we were having a chat, and the senior consultant threw away a comment. He said, John, your input's great, but just bear in mind, you haven't really worked with lots of senior people yet. So, you might have a slightly different perspective than us. And I immediately took that as he's questioning my ability. He's questioning my life status. He's questioning my job status. Does this guy not know that I can sit in front of an MD and have a commercial conversation? Within seconds that went through my head, and I went into fight mode. And I actually stripped the guy down in front of the meeting, and we came out and my boss went, that wasn't really very helpful, was it? All he was trying to point out was you have a slightly different perspective. He's been in the business 20 years longer than you and dealt with more senior people currently than you have. But I felt that was an attack on my life status at the time, and it turned me into the Hulk at that point. Not physically though, because he was a lot bigger and harder than me, but certainly emotionally, okay? So again, you've probably seen it, or it's happened to you, yeah? So just bear all that in mind when it comes to feedback, okay? So, what hurts most in negative feedback then isn't the overt content of the message, so much as the threat of exclusion, abandonment, and I can never say that word. Ostracism that accompanies it. The point that I've just been making, basically, guys, yeah? The point is, if you think your life status or self-esteem is being threatened, you will feel those things and you will probably go into fight. You might go into flight. That means you're just going to exit from it and worry about it without saying anything. It doesn't normally put you into freeze in that situation, but you will go into fight. So just be aware of that, not only for yourself when somebody's giving you feedback, but also when you are giving it to somebody else. Yeah, even family members, even if we take work out the equation for family members, it's in there as well, and children and things like that. Just be aware of it. The problem is this, okay? Just answer me this question on the chat box. If I rang one of you today and said to you, I'd just like to get, have you got 5 minutes today? I've got a bit of feedback for you. What automatically goes through your head at that point? If I say, I've got a bit of feedback, I need to see you, I've got a bit of feedback. I was looking for a little bit of worry, but Charlotte's gone straight to panic. I love it, brilliant. Tim's gone, oh God, yeah. I mean, how bad is this? Yeah? I mean, is that just because it's me, guys? Because I'm a big mean ogre? Or is that in general? I take it as that... Thanks, Charlotte, yeah. I'll take it as that is in general, yeah? Yeah, negative emotion from Meggle. You know, Charlotte, Tim, you're absolutely right. The moment somebody says feedback in our culture, there's a negative connotation for it. I had a very interesting, heated discussion last week. John's put, I got unsolicited feedback yesterday from someone. My heart dropped. Yeah, do you know what? It does that, John, doesn't it? It really does that. But actually, it was the nicest comment ever. So what happened is you got some feedback, your heart dropped and went, oh my God, and then you got a great comment. And that's a societal thing, isn't it? That we say the word feedback and we just go, what's wrong at that point? And it's a bit of a sad state we're in that point, really, because feedback is just a descriptive word for, you know, it could be positive or negative, couldn't it? Or helpful and hindering, depending on which way you want to look at it. I had a very heated conversation with somebody that works in it's quite senior, that works in a very large hotel chain. Not quite budget, but, you know, lower end hotel chain yesterday, one of my clients. And it was around the term performance management. Okay, so I don't know what this means. What does performance management mean in Centrica? What does it mean? If I said, I'm going to performance manager, what do you take from that? Getting sacked. Oh God. Do you know what I mean? And this is the point I was making, right? It won't be just you guys that think maybe it's like, oh, what have I done? Yeah, and I'm trying to link this in with feedback because it's the same kind of connotation, yeah? Excuse me. But I was having a chat with this guy and he was like, oh, I'm performance managing this person and that person, I've got a right headache. And I went, excuse me, oh, someone's gone down the wrong goal. Underperforming needs that Tim's put, yeah, absolutely. This guy was going, I've got loads of people I'm performance managing at the moment. And I said, and he was moaning about them all. And I said, how many great people are you performance managing? And there was just like a silence on the phone. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, how many great people are you performance managing? And he went, well, no, we don't performance great people. Performance management's if they're in trouble. I went, well, that's not performance management. That's a disciplinary. That's a completely separate thing. Meggle's put feedback can be negative as well as positive. Excuse me. I haven't got a cold. Something's just gone down the wrong goal. Don't worry, no coronavirus. You can't get it over the line, online. When I'm taking feedback, I ask for both. Absolutely, should always ask for both and should always give people both. But it's not about giving the layered sandwich. We'll talk about that in a moment, okay? We don't, that layered sandwich doesn't really work. We'll talk about that. The point I'm making is whether the point is performance management or feedback. We've got negative connotations around these words, unfortunately. And what we need to do is start to change that culture. Feedback should be part of your daily job. Giving and taking feedback, okay? Performance management shouldn't be done with bad people, just bad people. It should be done with every person. Because, you know, why would you not want a performance management great people to get even greater, or average performers to get great, rather than just low performers to get good? It just doesn't make any sense. But unfortunately, the connotation is around that, isn't it? Yeah. So, you know, as Meggle's just said there, look for positive. And look for, I wouldn't say negative, but maybe, you know, critical, constructive feedback where possible. And if we can just drop our emotions, I'm terrible for this. I'll be really honest with you guys. You guys know me. I'm a high red profile. You know, I don't take kindly to constructive feedback. My red profile wants to defend all of the time, and I've really had to learn to go, oh, okay, all right then, okay, all right, no, I'll take that. I'll take it. I'm not sure I agree with it, but I'll take it and I'll go and then I'll reflect on it for a couple of days and then I might agree with it a bit more. But I have to give myself time to process it because immediately my red profile won't let me. I go into defense mode quite easily. So again, depending on your personality profile will depend on how you take feedback as well, okay? So, I know you might not be able to see, this is actually a picture, which is why the text isn't great. I'll read it out to you. The wrong reasons, oh, just add another one. Negative or constructive feedback hurts. Why it happens, question mark. Even if we realise or know that it's correct. Even if we correct it, but it still hurts, what can we do? Okay, really good question. Negative or constructive feedback can hurt you, can't it? It can hurt you. And it's because somebody's pointing out what you could have done better, and a lot of the time what you might do is then beat yourself up because you should have known that. So what the brain likes to do is lots of should-haves, would-haves in the head, okay? Oh, I can't believe I did that. I should have done this, I should have done this, yeah? And you come up with lots of scenario thinking and you start beating yourself up at that point, okay? So this goes all the way back down to self-talk, what to say when you talk to yourself. If you've had some feedback and you realise it is something you should have done, okay, you can't then continue to beat yourself up for your should-haves. Because it's done, it's gone, it's past, yeah, you can't do anything about it. The key thing is to take that learning, change your actions for the future. So, can I stop it hurting? No, can't really stop it hurting, unfortunately, because it's your emotion and I'm not in charge of your emotion. Can you dampen the pain? Yes, with self-talk, with triggers, with things like that, and there's a load of stuff like that on your YouTube channel, so if you want to go and check that out again, feel free to do that. But the key is adapting and doing something different next time. That's the key. So hopefully that's helped a little bit with that question, Megal, but it's a really great question. The wrong reasons to give feedback. To defend or excuse your own behaviour when it's not been right. To demoralise and condemn. We do that when we're annoyed with people. We like to demoralise other people because we're annoyed about something. You're in a bad mood. To appease a third party. That's another one. You better tell them. You better tell them because I'm annoyed. Yeah? Hang on a minute. No, that's not the right reason to give feedback. The feedback needs to be productive on the back of it, not because somebody else is angry. To make yourself seem superior or powerful. I'm sure there's nobody on this call that would do that, but I'm sure you know people that have. People that just like to think they're better than other people. People that like to put you down. I played golf the other week with a guy that played off 2. And I play off 24 to 28. And he just thought he was clever all the way around, and all he did was demoralise me and another guy that played off 28. And he thought he was being funny, and he just really wasn't all the way round. I do this and I do that, and you know what you need to do? Oh God, I can't believe you did that. Just not very useful at all whatsoever. All the way round, you know. So again, there are some people out in the world like that. The key thing is to not let them walk through your mind with their dirty feet. And I'm sure some of you on this call have heard me use that statement before. Do not let other people walk through your mind with their dirty feet. It's a Gandhi quote, but to do that you've got to be quite strong in your thinking. You've got to get your self-talk right. So again, you need to go and back and revisit the self-talk stuff in order to do that, okay? The right reasons to give feedback: commitment, concern for another, sense of responsibility for you and for them, to guide or to mentor, and to support or enhance somebody's job, okay? So what we moved on to last time were 7 essential qualities of effective feedback. Now, I'm going to go through these quite rapidly because I've got 6 qualities of feed forward which I want to go through with you, okay? So if I go through these at a bit of speed, I have done it before, okay? So some of this should be on the YouTube. I've recorded it again for today as well for you guys, but I want to get to this feed forward stuff because I think that's the point that you're going to take as well. So, 7 things that you can do to give quality feedback, all right? First of all, get the basics right, okay? Clear, focused, based on fact, not opinion, okay? So base your feedback, get all your facts straight, and base it on fact and not opinion, okay? The moment you give feedback based on opinion, people have different opinions. okay? Base it on fact. What I mean by that, to use a very, very simple example, let's say that, I know you guys aren't all in an office environment, but let's say you're in an office environment, one of your team is late for work. Let's say the standard is 9 o'clock, that's the team standard. Going back to what Charlotte said about standards that you need in place, let's say punctuality, the standard is 9 o'clock, somebody comes in late 3 times in that week. You can either get clarity and base it on fact, so you can sit down with that person and go, right, on Monday you were 10 minutes late, on Wednesday you were 7 minutes late, and today you were 9 minutes late. The standard is 9 o'clock. What's going on? We need to get that back to 9 o'clock. You can give people feedback on that. However, if you pulled them into the room and you go, you've been a nightmare this week, you're always late. All of a sudden now, that's not fact anymore, that's opinion. First of all, you've called them a nightmare, which is an opinion. Nobody really knows what a nightmare is, and they're certainly different for different people. And secondly, you've said you're always late, which is also not accurate. But I see people doing that quite a lot. They base it on opinion rather than the fact in front of them. So that's kind of a little tip for you there, okay? Timely. Make it as close to the action as possible. Don't save it up, okay? I see managers and leaders saving up feedback for a one-to-one that they've got in a couple of months or a couple of weeks, yeah? Even good feedback. I was in a business before lockdown, and I was talking to the manager, and we were walking through the offices, and the manager went, Claire over there, she's really good. I've got her one-to-one in a couple of weeks. I can't wait for it. I've got so much great stuff to tell her. And I looked at the manager and went, why haven't you told her already? And he went, well, no, I'm saving it for a one-to-one. Don't save it. Give it to them. Yeah, I'm sure she'd feel better having it quickly. It's more impactful the nearer the time you do it as well, rather than saving it up. And it also works with constructive feedback. Don't save it up all into one big ball and then give it to somebody, because it feels like you're machine gunning them. Yeah? Do it in a timely manner where you can do. Make sure the content is meaningful and it's precise. Don't go off on one, okay? Base it on fact. Honest and to the point. However, I have put with kind intent or positive intent. What I mean by that is when it comes to honesty, you've got honesty and brutal honesty, okay? Now, I'm not saying don't change honesty, because you need to be honest, but do it with kind intent or positive intent. What I mean by that is, do it for the right reasons. Yeah? If you are brutal to people, then that's when it really hurts. If you are honest with positive intent, you're doing it for the right reasons to help them, then it still might hurt them a bit, but it's going to be nowhere near as if it was brutal, you know, on the back of it, yeah? Okay. Number 2, effective feedback is goal orientated, okay? What's the goal or output required? If you're going to give feedback, don't just leave them with the feedback. You give them the feedback and then help them know how they can change whatever it is they need to going forward. They need a goal. They need a target. Otherwise, you've just given feedback. Well, they could go away and do something with it or not. So help them go, here's the feedback. Let me help you change it. Let me help you change the action going forward. What is it that you want to aim for going forward now that's different? Yeah? What action needs to be taken, as I've said. Be specific, don't be woolly with stuff, okay? But again, be honest but not brutal at the same time. Number 3, effective feedback focuses on the future. And for anybody of a certain age that likes 80s music, 80s movies, you could probably tell me what that little picture is. For those younger people on the call, you may not know what that is. But the reason I've put that there is because it needs to be future focused. Do you give feedback if there isn't any learning to be taken? Nicola, no idea. Yeah, thanks Nicola. Thanks for making me feel old again. Lovely. I'm coming to see you soon, remember. It'll be nice, yeah? Charlotte's question, do you give feedback if there isn't, it is a flux capacitor, thank you Christian. Do you give any feedback if there isn't any learning to be taken? There's got to be learning taken from feedback, Charlotte. I would probably challenge that. Okay, for example, a genuine mistake. I would still say the learning is The learning would be what led to the mistake and how can you help so you don't make another genuine mistake on the back of it. So I would suggest there's always a little bit of learning. It might be a 1 in a million. Actually, I'll never ever do it again. I know, hands up, fair enough, you just take it. I'll give you that. But 9 times out of 10, there's normally a bit of learning that can be taken and then applied going forward, okay? But it needs to be focused on the future. So give your feedback. You did X. It's in the past, it's gone, okay? Correct the behaviour for the future. So this is what we need to do next time, okay? And some of this will come into feed forward as well in a moment, okay? So number 4, effective feedback is about the process, not the person. So I mentioned this earlier. Focus on the behaviour or the fact, not the person or the attitude. Now this one can be a bit challenging, because if you've got somebody that's got a bad attitude, an organisational terrorist or organisational corpse, it's quite difficult to separate the act from the attitude. You'll want to deal with the attitude. If you're a player, you'll want to deal with that attitude. But you can't, the attitude's not tangible. You can't really give it, you need to look at the fact and the conversation. So if somebody's got a bad attitude, to actually call them into a meeting and say you've got a bad attitude is very woolly ground, because it's very subjective attitude. The only thing you can do is actually show them the results of the actions they are taking on people. Yeah? So you came in this morning and you had 2 conversations and both those people were upset within 10 minutes. Yeah? You can't say your attitude led to those people being upset, or when you come in you have a bad attitude and upset everybody. You've got to be very careful, because it's a very woolly ground. Yeah? So just bear that in mind as well. Try and base it on the behaviour or the fact, not the person, not the attitude. Focus on one situation, not all situations. So if somebody's doing something repeatedly, yes, you could mention it, but they've done it once, that's enough. You need feedback. Yeah? And try and not give them feedback on 10 things at once, because it does feel, if you've ever had this, guys, I'm sure you can agree with me here, if somebody gives you lots of feedback in one go, it's like somebody's machine gunning, like somebody's got a Tommy gun and they're just doing this at you, and it's majorly demoralising, which is why it shouldn't be saved up. Shouldn't just save it up for people. You give it in a timely manner, 1 bit at a time. Don't use words like always or nightmare. They're subjective words, okay? People can't change who they are, but they can adapt to their behaviour. So if you're giving feedback on the person and you're asking them to be different, they can't. But if you're giving feedback on the behaviour, they can adapt. Yeah? So that's another psychological reason why you look at the fact and the behaviour rather than the person or the attitude on the back of it. Okay? So, number 5. Oh, there's another letter. I'll skip over that. I did that last time. Number 5. Effective feedback isn't afraid to be challenged. So this is a good one. When you give somebody feedback, don't get annoyed if they challenge you on it. Because I see this happen quite a lot as well. I see people give somebody feedback, the person then challenges them then back, that then turns you into a Hulk, and all of a sudden you're in an argument. And the feedback session's gone. So if you are going to give feedback, they have a right to challenge it. Whether it's right or wrong, they have a right to challenge it. However, if you've given your feedback based on the first 4 steps that we've just covered, the fact, not opinion, the behaviour, not attitude, there's a target to help them with afterwards, so on and so on. So if you've done all of that, it's very difficult for them to challenge the feedback. But if you've gone in, you haven't got the right facts, you're questioning attitude or you're questioning opinion, or you're giving opinion, then they will challenge it back. So you've got to be prepared for the challenge when you're giving feedback. Plan what you're going to say. I don't mean script it. You don't need to walk in with a script, okay? But you do need to know what you're going to say, because it will be challenged, yeah? Keep it simple and keep it direct. Don't go round the houses, yeah? Straightforward, to the point, honest, with positive intent, okay? Do it regularly so you can make a habit of it, yeah? In turn, people will respond better, because you will also give them good feedback as well as negative feedback or constructive feedback. Yeah, so if people are getting a nice balance of the both, then they're more susceptible to constructive feedback on the back of it. Okay, number 6, effective feedback can be positive. So, you know, Megal made the point earlier, well, feedback can be positive and negative, but we do tend to think of negative when we say the word feedback, yeah? We can celebrate successes. That's feedback. Celebrate successes, little wins, you know. Tell people in a timely manner what they're doing well, yeah. Reinforce and promote the good stuff people are doing on a daily basis, yeah. Positive feedback stimulates the reward centre, the pleasure centre of your brain. When you are told you are doing something well, it makes you feel good. And if you've been on any of my other sessions, you will know when you feel good, you are likely to get peak performance. So it's a nice little cycle to get in. The more you make people feel good, the more good they do. Yeah? The more you feel good, the more good you do. And it's as simple as that. It's a nice cycle to get into with feedback, yeah? Be specific and no interpretations. So try and just stay to that fact again, okay? And finally, on feedback, number 7, effective feedback doesn't assume it's right, okay? So this is the final pointer, yeah? Check your own emotions when you're about to give feedback. Is it the right time? Are you in the right frame of mind and everything else? If somebody's just done something that's infuriated you, unless it is business or health and safety critical, it's probably not worth doing the feedback there and then. Now that contradicts what I said a little bit earlier about giving quick feedback, but you've got to take your emotions into account here. If you are annoyed, fed up, angry, just leave it 12 hours, 24 hours tops, okay? Let your chemicals dissipate in your body. You can think a bit more logically, and then if you choose to give that feedback the following day, then you can, and so on and so on and so on. That's what I do, especially being a high red. If you're a high red type profile, you'll want to give feedback immediately, but actually you need just to kind of step back and go, nope, let's not do that. Let's just have a think about this, okay? Check your own ego as well. We've all got them. We like to fill them. So check your ego. Check it. You're not giving feedback because of your ego, and you're actually giving feedback for a genuine reason. Earn trust and respect by building relationships. If you have trust and respect within your team, people are more willing to hear feedback from you. It's as simple as that. So the better your relationship with somebody, the better the feedback, you're more willing to take it, even if it's not immediate. Even if your immediate is, don't tell me what to do. You'll go back, you will start to listen to it because of the relationship that you've got, the higher level relationship that you've got, okay? And ask some questions. How might you do things differently going forward, for argument's sake? So, if you give somebody feedback, you haven't got to give them the feedback and tell them how to put it right. You could do that, or you could give them the feedback and ask them how they could put it right and get them thinking at the same time, okay? So, those were your 7 things around giving effective feedback. I want to spend just the rest of the session on feed forward, because that's all feedback stuff, and we did a full hour on that probably 10 weeks ago, something like that now, maybe a bit more. But I want to bring this feed forward stuff in because I love the phrase feed forward. It just makes you think differently than feedback, if that makes sense. So effective feedback. So feedback is about what's happened in the past, and feed forward is about what potentially can happen in the future, which is ideal on the back of it, really. So when giving feed forward, instead of rating and judging a person's performance in the past, we are focused on their development in the future. Okay, so that's what feed forward is, and it's a bit of a no-brainer this. If you do feed forward really well, you have to do less feedback on the back of it. Okay, so let's have a look at this. 6 essential qualities of effective feed forward. Okay, let's look at number 1. So number 1, regenerate talent. Okay, help people see opportunities in advance. What happens sometimes in work is that, and I'm sure you've come across this phrase before, we grow blinkers. If anybody's ever seen a horse race, yeah, sometimes the horses have what they call blinkers on, which is little covers that cover their eyes from the side, so all they see is what's in front of them, okay, so they can run the race and not get distracted, right? Well, when we get into a business, sometimes we get blinkered with the day job. So all we can see is the day job, and that's all we get focused on. Okay, and what we need to try and help people, if you're going to feed forward, is you need to try and help people take those blinkers off and see a little bit wider. Have a wider view of what's going on and look for opportunities they can take in the future and maybe different actions they can take in the future. So that first little point really is about helping people see opportunities, okay? Helping people understand, don't just look at what you always look at every day when you go to work. Sit back, take the blinkers off and have a look, okay? Because what that means is if they are going in this with a wider vision, then they might avoid doing something that then has to need feedback on it, because they've had a wider vision, more opportunities, they've taken a more calculated decision because of a wider view, and so on and so on and so on, okay? How people spread their talent and grow. So this is all still about talent, but this is about helping each other across businesses as well, across business units as well. The amount of talent you guys have got in your business is going to be massive. There will be people that have hobbies outside of work that you don't even know about that could probably help people within the business. Okay, I remember doing a conference for Whirlpool. There was like 250 people on the conference, and the ops director, kind of Peter Law's equivalent in Whirlpool, rang me and said, John, have you got anybody that can video the day for us? And I said, yeah. And he said, oh, well, you know, why are you saying it like that? I said, look, I said, I have, and there's going to be a cost involved. But I said, how many people do you have reporting into you? And he said, oh, in total about 1,200. I said, I will guarantee you that there is at least one person in your 1,200 strong team that has got video skills. They do it as a hobby, or they do wedding videos, or they do whatever, or conferencing videos that you don't even know about. I bet you. And he went, do you know what? He went, I'm going to ask the question. So he went out and asked the question, could anybody come and video this day professionally and make it look great and everything else? And he had 5 people that came back to him straight away. And the point I'm making is that we don't know sometimes what talent people have. So by asking questions of what talent people have inside and outside of work, we can spread that talent pool along and give people that wider view and more tools and techniques, so less feedback is needed in the future. Because there are 7 billion people on the planet and we can get to most of them, but we don't even know the talent we've got within our team. Imagine you go out now and ask your colleagues this week. Just send an email to your colleagues, and if you're a leader, to your team saying, guys, tell me all the stuff you do outside of work. What talents have you got? Yeah, what talents could we share and use, and all that type of stuff, you know? Because it's amazing what you find out about people, but it all helps with feeding forward. What you're doing is you're feeding everybody with talents and possibilities and ways of doing things and a wider view, so people can take more informed decisions, so you don't have to feed back. And people don't do what they've always done and get what they've always got on the back of it, okay? Explore hidden talents. Really, really useful little point. That was number 1, okay? Number 2, expand possibilities, okay? Now, I've done a separate session on possibility thinking, okay, generating lots of ideas very, 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 very quickly and coming up with new ways of doing things, okay? We called it a mind store. You can do a mind map and so on and so on. Kevin Williams put, can't wait until I roughly play ukulele. Can't wait until I roughly play ukulele, it's called for. Oh, I didn't even know you played the ukulele, Kevin, but you never know, it might be called for one day, yeah? Or just the fact that, you know, the skills of learning that type of instrument, for argument's sake, yeah? But you may not see an immediate need for it, but now I know. I'm going to tell Pete, and I bet Pete finds a use for it. Now you're worried, aren't you? Generate new possibilities regularly. So what I mean by that is regularly sit down and come up with new ways of doing things. Now I know you can't do that every day because you've got a job to do, but once a week, once a month, something like that, is there a better way? Could we do it slightly differently? Yeah, because if you do that possibility thinking, whether you're using a Mindstorm, which we use, or a mind map or something, there's loads of techniques out there for generating new ideas. We just don't use them. What we do is what we've done, always, and we get the same result. If you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got. So just giving that time to put in new ways of doing things would be great, okay? Use that what-if scenario. This is quite a good one. When you look at something in business, and we go, oh, we can't do that, we can't do that. Yeah? We can't do that because we don't have the money. We can't do that because we don't have the resource. We can't do that because we don't. Just sit there and go, what if? What if we did have the money? And what if we did have the resource? How would we do it? And you know what? The amount of times I've done that with clients, and 50% of what they come up with, they can do anyway. But they've had to think at it slightly differently in order to get over the barrier of I can't do that because, we can't do that because. And this is all about expanding your horizons. Because if you do that, you're going to take more informed choices, there's going to be less need for feedback, because what you're doing is feeding forward. Yeah? Okay. Help people, dare I say it, to be more solution focused than problem focused. Okay? Number 3, back to a target again. Be strategic. Think of the future. Plan ahead. Don't just wait for it to happen. Okay? Because then feedback's going to have to come in when it goes wrong. If you are strategic and specific, if you want to go with that as well, and you are thinking of the future, you know, to a certain degree, plan it out, know what's coming. Okay? Be selective as well. So choose. Purposely choose your direction. Don't just let life take you along. Okay? Because if it does, we start going down avenues and then think, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Then somebody has to give you feedback and da-da-da-da-da. So try and be selective. Now, it's much easier to be strategic and be selective if you've just done number 1 and 2 of feeding forward. Okay? Much, much easier to do. Create new thinking. Understand talent, understand the talent pool around you, and so on and so on and so on. I honestly believe there is nothing on this planet I can't do. Now, I might have some physical limitations to certain things, but if somebody asked me to do something and I really wanted to do it, that's not me being big-headed saying, yeah, I could do it. It's me going, there is enough people on this planet that can help me do it. Okay, my daughter came to me the other day and she went, Dad, I'm stuck on my own work. Now she's 16, walk on the moon. I tell you what, I'll give it a go. You never know, do you, Christian? By the time another 40 years, I hope to be around. Those commercial flights and stuff, you never know, don't take it out of the equation, yeah? The point is, there's certain things that I would put my mind to and do because I know I've got the resources of the world if I just go and look for them. So my daughter came to me and said, I'm stuck on my own work, Dad. Now she's 16, okay? I'm stuck on my own work. And my response was, no, you're not. And she went, no, I am. I'm really stuck. I don't know what to do. I said, there is no way on this, excuse me, there is no way on this planet you are stuck. Because at your fingertips, you have billions of pages of texts, videos. You can connect several other people together in the world, people you don't already know. I said, with all due respect, darling, when I was stuck on my own work, I had to walk to a library, right? There is no way you're stuck. If you need my help, ask for my help, but don't tell me you're stuck, because nobody's really stuck anymore. We don't get stuck. Because the answers, 9 times out of 10, are already out there. What we have to do is go and put the time and effort in to go and look for them and understand the talents and do some different thinking and be solution focused and all the other stuff we've kind of come together. Okay? And it's all about feeding forward for your success, for your team's success, for your peers' success. Okay? Feed forward is also ongoing. All of that stuff I've just said, it's a regular thing, it's a culture. Yeah, I think that comes up in a moment, actually. Be authentic. Be yourself, okay? Don't pretend to be anything you're not. You need to adapt behaviour in certain situations to get the best out of people around you, but be authentic. Make feed forward part of your daily routine. It's part of my monthly routine. I have a goal once a month to link in with somebody using LinkedIn that I don't know, somebody I want to link in with, and ask them a question. That's what I do, and 9 times out of 10 I get an answer. 9 times out of 10. They don't even know me. And I link and I send them a question. Let's say it could be an expert in neurology or psychology or whatever. And I think, oh, I'll look at their profile. That's really interesting. I'll ask them a question. 9 times out of 10 I get an answer. I've started trying to make Feed Forward part of what I do. Learning stuff and trying to take the blinkers off and all this type of stuff. I try it with my team as well. We sit down once a month and go, what we're doing really well and what could we do even better? Yeah, what could we do this? What could we do? Let's take the blinkers off, yeah? Okay. Don't use a rubbish sandwich. Okay, so this goes back to feedback. Okay? People, I don't know if people know what a rubbish sandwich is, but there's a worse phrase for it. But basically what it is sitting down with somebody, telling them something bad, telling them something good and telling them something bad. Or the other way around. They try it even the other way around. Tell them something good, tell them something bad, tell them something good. Well, either way don't work. Because I'll guarantee you, even if you tell them 2 good things against 1 bad thing, they'll remember the bad thing. So you might as well just go in, give them the feedback. As long as it's timely and it's based on fact and all the other stuff that we've done today, just give them the feedback. Don't try and sandwich it. Give them feedback regularly, timely, helpful feedback, constructive feedback. Same times, okay? Give examples of Feed Forward. What if you did this? What if you did that? Yeah? So give those examples, okay? Because being authentic is really important. You've got to be you. Refine group dynamics, okay? So create a Feed Forward culture. It's a team sport with a little bit of sarcasm in it, okay? If you're feeding forward, you want to try and create where everybody does that. Because the more people that do all of that feed forward stuff, you know, open up the blinkers, look at new possibilities, find new information, all that type of stuff, the more people that do that, the more informed choices are, the less feedback that we have to do. So try and get other people involved in it, yeah? And it shouldn't just be top down. Yeah, if anything, you could argue bottom up, across, down, up, don't really matter, does it? Everybody can create this culture of feed forward. I know Pete was interested in this session today as well. He can't be on it, unfortunately. He's on every week, but he's got a couple of urgent work things he's had to deal with today. So we'll watch the videos and stuff afterwards. Do it regularly. Make habits. Yeah, turn people in turn, people will respond better. So again, create those dendrites, create those pathways, right? And finally, impact. Have impact. Now, I did a session last week that was called Impact and Presence, or Presence and Impact, one or the other, or it might have been the week before. That will be on YouTube. That was a lot of feedback on that as well. People love that. But have impact, okay? Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Keep it straightforward. Yeah, when you're trying to feed forward, what could we possibly do? How can we do it? Let's be solution focused. Get to the point. Let's not waffle around it. Yeah, because you will have more impact. Be specific. No interpretation. Okay, and be genuine. Be you when you're doing this kind of thing. Okay, and that takes us bang on time to the end of the presentation. So I hope you enjoyed that. We have another session in 30 minutes. That is resolving conflict. So if you're on that session, I will see you in about 30 minutes. If you're not, have a great week. And as always, drop me a bit of feedback in the chat box before you leave. I know you found the session, that'd be great. And I will either see you in 30 minutes or I'll see you next week. Have a good one, guys. See you shortly. Bye for now.